Hey everyone, Mrs. Brown here. I hope you're having a great day. And today we're going to talk about SSS1A versus SSS2A. Now, these are two programs that you'll find in the Institute for Excellence in Writing. And I see this question pop up quite a bit. So I wanted to address this for parents who are trying to figure out which one is the best program for my student. So before we get started, if this is your first time to my channel, make sure that you subscribe or like so that when I post new videos or go live, you will be notified. I definitely want to make sure that you are notified when I go live and post new videos. All right, let's dive into SSS1A and 2A. SSS stands for Structure and Style for Students, and that is an IEW program. So today, we are going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing we're going to talk about are the similarities that exist between both of those programs. We're going to talk about the reading level that exists in those two programs. We're going to talk about what is structure and what units of structure are taught in both 1A and 2A. And then we'll end by talking about the stylistic techniques. So the two skills that IEW teaches is the skill of structure and style. And so IEW calls those stylistic techniques dress-ups and openers, and then there are some dress-ups that are introduced in 1A and some that are introduced in 2A, and then there are certain openers that are introduced in 1A and certain openers that are introduced in 2A. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's talk about the similarities first. So the similarities for SSS1A and 2A are as follows. Now, what you'll notice is that both of them, which I love about both of these programs, they both come with video or DVD support. And so the video support is like, you can select streaming. So if you select streaming, it'll be like the one on the left-hand side, which is the 1A program. And both of them come with either streaming, forever streaming, or DVD support, where Andrew Pudawa teaches all of the lessons. All of them include structure. So again, like I mentioned, structure and style are the two skills that your student will be working on in every single lesson. And so when you hear the term units basically refer to the structure, how a student is organizing their thoughts before they write a certain type of paper. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later when we cover structure. Both of them include style. So your student in both SSS1A and 2A will learn what IEW calls stylistic techniques. They're referred to as dress-ups and openers. We'll talk about that as well. Both programs are taught over 24 lessons or include 24 lessons, and those lessons in both 1A and 2A also include vocabulary. So it's nice that your student will be acquiring some vocabulary along the way as well. And then both programs provide literary suggestions. And I would suggest that, you go to the actual links that I have below. I have a link to the 1A program and the 2A program. I have them linked below. And you can look in the table of contents, look at the literary suggestions. Now, I do want to mention that those aren't taught. They're just suggested. There's something that you would add in your own home so that as your student is working through the program and each of those lessons, they can add those literary suggestions to their reading list. So that gives you kind of one less thing to think about. Obviously, you can read other things, but IEW does provide literature suggestions so that it gives you one less thing to have to think about as a parent trying to decide. Now let's talk about where the two programs kind of deviate. So SSS1A, when I talk about reading level, so if you're new to IEW provides sources for each of their units or each of their lessons. And so if you are looking at SSS1A, the sources in SSS1A will be at a 3rd through 5th grade reading level, as opposed to the sources that are provided in SSS2A. Those sources will be at a 4th through 6th grade reading level. So again, that's really important to know as you are determining which level is right for your student. The next thing that is kind of a difference between the two that's really important to know or to note would be structure. Now, Structure, again, is how your student organizes their thoughts before they write. And IEW uses a tool called a keyword outline that your student learns to use as kind of their plan before they write, so they know what they want to say before they actually start writing their paragraph. So units 1 and 2, you'll see that units 1 and 2, those cover just the basic keyword outlining skills. And then unit 2, they will basically take a source, write a keyword outline, and learn how to rewrite in their own words the information from that source. So that's what unit 2 covers. Now you'll notice that in 1A, your student gets 5 weeks. So the first 5 lessons, your student will be practicing that skill of unit 1 and 2. In structure and style for students 2A, your student does that for 3 weeks. So again, your students will all start with unit 1 and 2, but they'll spend a little bit less time in 2A practicing that skill. Then in unit 3 is basically when your student learns how to retell a narrative story. So that is the structural unit. That's how they will be writing their keyword outline. And their keyword outline will be based on retelling a narrative story. So you'll notice that in 1A, your student spends 3 weeks practicing that unit, and in 2A, they spend the same amount of time, 3 weeks. Now, unit 4 is the first unit, the foundational unit for report writing. And so in 1A, your student spends 4 weeks practicing that skill, learning how to summarize a reference. So in report writing, we generally have a reference that's too long, and your student needs to learn how to summarize that, only pull out what's interesting, important, or relevant, and include those details in their paragraph. And in SSS2A, your student spends only 3 weeks practicing that particular skill. There's only 3 lessons that cover that unit. Now in unit 5, your student, that's back to the creative writing road. Unit 5 is writing from pictures, and your student spends 4 weeks in 1A practicing that skill over and over. And in unit 5 for SSS2A, again, 3 weeks are spent on that particular unit. Now, unit 6, it goes back over to the report writing road. And in that particular unit, your student is learning how to summarize multiple references. Basically, when you're writing a report, we generally use more than one reference. And so your student learns how to utilize more than one reference or one source and summarize those to write a report. And in both 1A and 2A, your student spends 3 weeks, or there are 3 lessons that will focus on unit 6. Now, unit 7 is also covered in 1A and 2A, and you'll notice that your student gets 4 weeks. This is back over to the creative writing road. And this is writing from prompts. This teaches your student how to pull anything out of their brain. So they don't have any sources. Their only source is their brain in this particular unit. And your student spends 4 weeks in SSS1A learning how to write from prompts. Now, your student in SSS2A spends 3 weeks, but notice that in SSS1A, Unit 7 is where the program ends, and all of them end with timed writing, but that's the unit that ends SSS1A. In SSS2A, you have 2 additional units that are covered, and these are the 2 additional units that are found in all of the rest of IEW's writing programs. Unit 8 builds upon unit 6, and the student learns how to add an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph to their report in unit 8. And so they spend 3 weeks in SSS2A learning how to do that. And in unit 9, they learn how to write critiques. And so those are, kind of the bigger differences between 1A and 2A in terms of structure. 2A, your student's going to get unit 8 and unit 9. All right. So the last kind of difference between the 2 would be the stylistic technique. So again, the second skill that your student learns is the skill of style. And style is basically referred to as dress ups and openers when we're looking at SSS1A and 2A. And notice that there are 6 dress ups. Those are the ones in green. The ly adverb, the who which clause, the strong verb, the because clause, the quality adjective, and the WW Asia clause. Now, those are stylistic techniques that are taught and they're taught one at a time. They're introduced during different lessons, and after they're introduced, the student is expected to add at least one of each dress up in each paragraph of their writing. Now, notice that the WWH from the LY adverb to the WWH clause in SSS1A, your student is introduced to those dress ups between weeks or lessons 3 and lessons 15, as opposed to SSS2A, which introduces all 6 except a little bit faster. So the introductions of the style start in lesson 2 and end in lesson 11. So all of your first semester lessons will cover all 6 dress ups. Now, notice also that SSS1A ends with one opener. So that is a prepositional opener, and it teaches the student how to open their sentence with a prepositional phrase. That is also introduced in SSS2A, but added to that, you have the number 3 LY opener, the number 6 very short sentence opener, and the number 5 clausal opener that are added to the stylistic techniques that your student will learn in 1A or 2A. So just as a quick recap, we talked about the similarities between both 1A and 2A. We talked about the differences in reading level between 1A and 2A. We talked about structure, what units are covered in 1A, which is units 1 through 7, and which units are covered in 2A, units 1 through 9. And then we also talked about the stylistic techniques, the dress-ups and the openers that are covered or introduced in both. So basically, all 6 dress-ups are taught in 1A and 2A. And then one opener is taught in 1A, and then you have, I think, 4 openers that are taught in 2A. And again, the pace at which they're taught is a little bit different as well. Now, if you still have questions, I highly recommend that you contact IEW customer service. They have excellent customer service. Every single time I've called customer service, either as a parent or as an instructor, a certified IEW instructor, they have done a great job giving me guidance. You can either chat with them, so you can go to their the IEW.com website. You can chat with them live during their business hours. You can send them an email, or you can call them at 1-800-856-5815. And if you are interested in having one of your students take a class from me, you can find me on homeschoolclick.com. And just so that you know, I'm a certified IEW instructor, and what I do is I utilize Institute for Excellence in Writing, and I teach classes that make learning how to write well enjoyable for your students. So it's been great being with you today. If you have any questions, let me know. Contact me at homeschoolclick.com, and of course you can contact IEW customer service, and don't forget to like or subscribe so that when I post new videos, you are informed. Take care and have a great day.